Hello, hello, everyone. Oh, Linda's here. Hey, Linda, how are you?
Okay, I guess. I'm playing around with this stupid OBS studio and I don't know how this is going to work out, so we shall see.
Well, your background looks amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Um, I made that background, just have to say. Okay. But it was inspired by Linda's purple dragon that she always had behind her. So it wasn't like I invented the concept of a purple dragon with like green thorns that was behind her. But, anyway. Okay, anyway, sorry, a slow start to this live stream. We are live right now. So today, have I told you guys the story of Ensoulment before about where I got this book?
I
Mm-mm.
don't think so.
Okay, I have to start off by telling you this story. Okay, so when I had translated this book, The Introduction to the Tetrabiblos by Porphyry of Tyre, and that was the first book I ever translated. And somehow I found my name on this thread by this guy named Roger Pierce. He's a religious scholar, and he was like putting out a post. He was like, I would like to commission somebody to translate the Introduction to the Tetrabiblos. And someone's like, oh, this woman's already done it. Her name's Andrea Garrett. So I showed up and I was like, "Hi, this is Andrea Garrett. It's nice to meet you, Roger Pierce. Like, if there's anything ever you need translated, just let me know." And he sends me this zip file in my inbox. He's like, "Here's a book on the soul and how it gets in the body that's never been translated into English before ever." And I was like, "Okay, okay, okay." And so that's this book. It took me 7 years to do it, but it was untranslated at the time that I did it. Now there's another translation which Shane got a hold of, so I was thinking someday we could compare translations as well, but really I've never been able to really get a crew to read this book, but like this is the best book I've ever read in my life. Like in my life about anything esoteric. It's like how does the soul get in the body? So any commentary on that crazy story of procuring this book?
My comment is it took 7 years, and when people say things take them an amount of time, I imagine that they did not stop the entire time. What? How many hours per day are we talking?
Well, let's see. I would sit in a I have a copy of Ensoulment. Hold on, let me see if I can find the actual um hold on. I think this is it. I think this is it. Okay. I was interpreting auto mechanics at the time. Oh my god, this is the actual manuscript. Okay, so look at my notes. I would be reading in Greek. So can you guys see the Greek there?
Mhm.
Mhm, mhm.
Mhm.
I would be reading and I would be like coming across words I didn't know. See how I'm circling the words and I'm having to translate little words and like there's so basically it was like me sitting. I can only work on it for a few hours a day, right? It's just tedious work. You have to circle a word, then look up in the dictionary. So then I'd be like trying to read what it said. It's highly philosophical, so then I have to go back and read what it said. So a lot of that 7 years was spent like doing other things, but also trying to read the book and figure out what it was saying. Um, so it actually helped me to finish the Valens anthology because a lot of this, and now I didn't know if there was any astrology that was going to be in this book. It's like being an archaeologist. You're just like digging through a site, basically a source text, and you have no idea if there's going to be any astrology in there. And
Mhm.
oh my God, it's a book on teleology, which is what astrology is based on. It's like they compare people to plants the whole time. Like it's all about growth and like all this kind of stuff. And they actually mentioned the weathers under which a baby ensouls and stuff, which obviously is the astrology of it. So, yeah, so I don't know. It was 7 years, but it was, I mean, just a lot of like looking upwards. Look at all that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Wow. Is the language it's Greek. Is it in the same type of like is that how in English it's like if you read something from 300 years ago you're like, "What?" Even if it's in English? Is it like that?
it's the same kind of Greek that I read in the Valens anthology. I also read a lot of the Bible in Greek, because I wanted to understand like the context in which this stuff was written.
Mm.
So much of Ensoulment has to do with biblical stuff too. I mean, teleology is all over the Bible. So in some ways, this is taking us back to like biblical times and the astrology of biblical times. So yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
But this guy, Porphyry Tyre, he wrote, I think, 17 books on different stuff. He was a Neoplatonic philosopher, so he studied under Plato. and then wrote all these books. And so he wrote books on everything from like vegetarianism to the introduction of the Tetrabiblos, which is a technical book on astrology. And then he also wrote this book on how the soul gets in the body. So he was writing on a bunch of different stuff. He was a philosopher.
Was he a vegetarian?
I don't know. We should check out his vegetarianism book. Maybe he wrote on it, but didn't. I don't really know.
You would
Um,
think he probably would be if he wrote a book on it.
it's true.
Why would he write a book on it if it wasn't something that he was interested in? I guess.
Mm.
I mean, how many people are actually vegetarians their whole life? I mean, I guess he could have been both.
True.
You know.
That's true.
I'm trying to think about anything else. Okay, so before we get into the text, I want to ask you guys, what do you think? Okay, how do you think the soul gets in the body personally?
Mm.
I mean, Dragon Rose, you've read a lot of your Uncle Jay, and he was, among the world's. What would he say? Or I don't know. Just what's your personal opinion?
That's a good question. I have not read the book, and I'm not really up on this particular topic, but um, I I know that Uncle Jay would think that the soul is forever. Okay, the body comes and goes. We have multiple bodies, and it's funny. I was just reading a paragraph or a chapter on that, my latest one that I'm recording, and he talks about it in the context of kind of reincarnation, in that he doesn't believe in a God that a vengeful God. He doesn't believe in that hateful crap in the Old Testament. He believed that the reincarnation was a way for us to atone for our sins in this current life. So let's say you have a prejudice against a particular group of people in this life, well, you'll come back as that in that as that kind of a person, as that culture, to learn what it's like. So that way you can work your way, your soul can work its way to home, to heaven, versus you go to hell and you stay there forever and you burn and burn and burn and burn for eternity. That's just not what he believed in. So you could say it's against the Bible, but I think the Bible's written by men, and I think men are not always right. And I think there's an agenda to that. So I think in his mind, when you're born, when you're conceived, that's when the soul would enter the body. I don't really know. I kind of tend to lean toward his thinking, but I haven't really given this a great deal of thought until you invited me to this. I did a little research and I actually asked Gemini, because I use it to help me come up with some ideas when I post things about Father Jay's particular chapters, and it pulled Father Jay in, and it talked about
Whoa.
ensoulment. Yeah, it said something about, well, remember when Father Jay had that in 1937, had that vision, and I'm okay, yeah. So it's kind of creepy, but it's kind of cool that it knows kind of where my mind is going. It mentioned the picture that he painted of that, and I have it on my wall here, that he couldn't finish. And art, ensoulment also, I guess, a lot of artists, they put their soul, they put everything into their art. And that's also a term that it described under ensoulment. And in this case, it mentioned Uncle Jay, or Father Jay, not being able to finish the picture. He just couldn't get the eyes right on the Virgin. And the next day he woke up and the picture was done. The eyes were perfect. So, yeah. But that's my really only take on ensoulment. I think it too, that probably the body, the soul enters the body at birth. Now I don't know if you guys know much about star seeds, but the latest couple of years I've been hearing a lot about walk-ins. I'm not sure I buy it. I think that just somebody wants to have a variation on the star seed theme so they could capture that as their thing. That's my take on that, but I could be wrong.
I love what you said about art and how artists can put their soul into their work, because I've felt that from my late mentor, who was an artist, and we have a ton of her art around the house, and it feels like she's here because she kind of is, like, her energy is in all of these paintings. Yeah.
Mhm.
I've never heard the idea that the soul enters at conception, but that actually makes a lot of sense, right? Like that as soon as the seeds meet, or I've heard that the soul sprouts itself in the ether, and then comes down to earth. Like you know, you could even say that the soul sprouts upstairs, you know, before it comes in through the body or something. I don't know.
I like that at conception too, because my child that I miscarried, I very much feel like his energy was present and I knew him and he had some level of work to do here. And when he was done, he didn't even need to be born for what needed to happen. And then I've had visitations from him and I'm like, okay, so that really was your soul and you continue living on and all that. So, yes to conception.
I'm
Or
really excited for this book because I've only read Spirit Babies, and it's really interesting because he writes, I can't remember the name of the author, but he talks about miscarriage and abortion as well in there. But I do like the idea of what he's saying too, like sometimes a soul might take a few times to come. And so, but I really like the way that he talks a lot about it and doing his regressions and things.
You know, there was, my friend Ryan was pregnant with his baby, and I sat and read the entire book of Ensoulment with him when the baby was ensouling. It was cool. Like we,
Wow.
dude, if you ever have a friend who's pregnant, you should get them an Ensoulment book and read it with them. It's crazy.
I
Okay,
don't think that there's, Andy, I don't think that the soul, like the way you described it, the soul is always there. And my belief is that we choose, before we're born, we choose to be born to that particular situation. We make that, if the soul makes that conscious decision, wherever it's up, if it's sitting up in heaven or wherever it's sitting, it makes that conscious decision. So the soul is always there. It doesn't develop at the time of conception. It enters at the time of conception.
I agree.
Because that's the life it chose. That's the lesson it needed, and that's my opinion anyway.
well, as he talks about later in the book, and I don't know how much we'll ever get. I mean, if you guys wanted to read the whole book, I would do it with you. It would take us like a year or something. But the thing is he talks about that the baby sends visions to the parents to get them together to have them have the baby, basically. And it's like I find this really interesting as far as like, you know, like my daughter, I got visions of her before I met her dad, and I actually predicted the day of her birth. I told many people about it and I got it right. Like I mean I never predicted a different day. It was always that day. She came out on that day. And like when I met her father, I was like, "Oh my god, you're the father of my baby." Like I knew it within a minute of meeting him. But she had sent visions to me. And like granted I have a Pisces moon square Neptune, so I have a kind of a psychic mother aspect in my chart. But like I think according to Porphyry of Tyre, babies do this all the time. They send visions down. So
I don't
what
see
about
why the good.
so I do want to ask a sensitive question because I just want to be thorough. So what about infertility? Like when people want to have a baby but the soul's not coming through. What do we think about that?
That's very
I think it's a
personal.
lesson. I think it's a lesson from a prior experience, a prior incarnation. I can't obviously can't say specifically, but let's say, for example, in a prior life, you murdered your child for some reason, or you murdered other children. You know, you could have been a warlord. Who knows? But you come back and now you want children and you can't have them. I mean, that's the life lessons I think we get out of our existence. And once we've learned that lesson, we move on. If we have to come back, we come back and learn a new lesson. But that's a different topic. That's kind of reincarnation, I guess.
I think for me, a lot of it is like, as much as that the soul that would be the child has specific goals or work that it wants to do, so it needs to wait for those people to meet or pull them together, however we want to put egg or chicken first. But I think also there's a part where like the parent also benefits from that relationship. Like I've had a lot of friends and clients say like my child was a like is what jump started this journey in life or this evolution or this part of my healing. So I think that when people are wanting something here on earth, but it's not manifesting, such as a child, like maybe there's other work that their soul is trying to do first before there's a purpose for that child to come through for themselves, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think in some ways, like we can't. They say with lots of life, like you can't have it all. Like for example, if you're busy tending a child, you can't do other things. Like in some ways, I think some souls have another purpose that they are actually bound to do, and so there could be something like that. I wasn't trying to be personal with this. I was referring to it because in the book he talks about this interesting idea that a soul can't come through without consent of the humans. Like you have to basically do certain acts to allow ensoulment to occur. And though some humans want ensoulment to occur and that's not in their contract basically. Like it's just kind of like ensoulment. People always think like people make babies and I'm like, all right, well not a lot of people want to do that, but it doesn't, like the soul has, there has to be ensoulment to occur for a human to be born. I just
Mm,
think that's interesting, you know.
mm.
It's not the
I
act.
think you might have, you
What?
said contract. I think that's a good way to kind of explain it. I think there is a soul contract that you make with the parents, if you will. Um, like for example, well, I can't say that I know the contract that I had with my son Jason, but I picked the dad. I was not looking for a husband. I was looking for someone to be the father to help me have a baby. I wanted the baby. I didn't want the husband. I didn't want the man actually. So I
Wow.
picked, yeah, based on the people that were in my life at that time. And the funny thing is, Jason really never knew his dad because we just weren't together. Yet he is so much like his dad that is scary. He's got the traits of his dad, not necessarily good ones, and he never met the man. So I don't know what that means, but I, the
Well, and
contract between souls.
yeah,
I'm
well,
done.
it would say that they would compare people to plants all the time, and it's basically like they would say that the seed comes from the father, so like it's a genetic, it's like a parent plant situation. It would be like a squash plant bears a squash baby plant, right? And it's like the Jason parent plant, you know, is within him, and they talk about this in this book. Is like what parts are from the father, what parts are from the mother, and then what parts are from a totally separate place, and that the spirit's coming in from a separate place through those parents as well.
Hmm.
Okay, let's read a paragraph. How about I read a paragraph? We usually don't get very far reading
Mhm.
this because it's been so much discussion. Okay, so he calls it to Garros. So he's writing to a guy named Garros. I don't know why. On the manner in which souls enliven within embryos. Okay, the enlivenment of soul within body during procreation is a concept about which many are at a loss, Garros, not only us. So they're at a loss. Like they don't actually know the answer. Like this essay is talking about like all the ins and outs of it, right? Past thinkers have confronted ambiguities. Those who study the order of nature, plants, and elementary substances have been perplexed. A great number of healers, physicians, and surgeons have also been confounded. There are many unanswered questions. First question: must a soul be led to its embryo, or does enlivenment occur naturally? Any thoughts on that question?
This is heavy.
Just some simple yeah, math or whatever. No, just kidding.
I, th-
A light Friday
I think
night.
we already talked about that. The soul decides that, so it doesn't just willy nilly jump in. It's a decision, a contract made ahead of time. I mean, I'm not saying that's fact. I'm saying we just discussed that, right?
Okay. Well, I think one question there too is this idea as like, is this soul this thing outside and you lead the soul to the body and the soul gets in? Or does the
Mm.
soul grow within the vessel? Like, you know, see what I mean? Those are different concepts. Like soul is
Mm.
outside,
Mm.
now the soul comes in through your crown or something. Or is it like growing within the vessel?
Mm.
And can it come and leave and come back? Like, are you able to
Yeah.
astral travel in the womb?
All right. Well, some say a creature's uniqueness stems from an interaction between the sensory experience and the bodily urges. Okay, so this is a big thing that they talk about constantly through this book is the sensory urges. And like so the chart is like basically this thing where it's like this soul census machine. Like your chart shows like how you're sensorily wired. So it's kind of saying that our uniqueness stems from our sensory experience and then our bodily urges, which they call hormenes, which we get hormones from. Like, so they say that like each of us have different senses and then different urges. And would you how do you guys attribute that to like a chart, for example? Like, how does a Leo sense things different than a Scorpio or an Aquarius?
And which placement are we looking at as the sensor? Like the moon?
I would say the whole thing.
The whole thing. Okay. Hmm.
Like, or you could say, how do different Marses have different urges? Like, what is the Mars urge?
It's interesting because you can think about it as like the primary recipient of the energy that wants to keep moving, or is it coming through an aspect? Like if your Mars aspects your moon and your moon gets the trigger and it feeds into via the aspect that Mars versus like a Mars that doesn't kind of talk to any other planets. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think any Mars aspect we have would affect our hormones or our urges, right? Like, I have a Mars square sun, so I'm a savage. Um, Kimber's got Mars in Cancer, and so she's like a diamond painting maniac. But it's like she has the urge to diamond paint, right? Like, whereas like Jenna did it, was like, oh, I hate this, or whatever. Like, her Mars in Capricorn was not having the diamond painting. But like, I do think that the chart, according to this book, and I really want us to notice this, is that it is a map of your urges and a map of your sensory experience, and that's a big part of how the soul inhabits the body or inhabits the chart. I feel like I'm overstimming you guys. That's why it took me 7 years to read this thing. All right. In plants, the tendency to grow in size is separate from the senses and urges.
Can you read that one more time?
In plants, okay, you'll see them compare people to plants a lot. In plants, the tendency to grow in size is separate from the senses and urges.
Mm.
Whereas in humans, like how much you grow would have to do with your senses and urges, like the urge to eat or the urge to, you know, um, I don't know, I think he's probably making the case here that a plant might not have the same sensory apparatus as a human. Um, well, okay, let me ask you guys this. How do you think plants ensoul?
Oh, that's so.
Kimber's mad.
I'm not mad. I'm just. I don't know. I don't even know where to go with that question.
Well, I'll take a stab at it. You know how they say that if you put a plant in the corner of a room with a light that's like oscillating, that eventually the light will start going to the plant more than it doesn't because the plant kind of has a consciousness that's like, hey, look at me. Come on, I need light. That's my thing. And plants talk to each other through their roots. So part of it, like I think that like if they are not having that feedback from either not having enough microorganisms in their soil or not having contact with other root systems through the mycorrhiza, like any which way, like we could say that that could have, I don't want to say an emotional impact, but it's like whatever the plant equivalent is of that, that makes them kind of not grow as much.
Well, there have been tests done with plants and music. Plants
Mhm.
that are listening to certain kinds of music grow better than plants listening to certain other kinds or none at all. Or even talking. I talk to my plants. I talk to my flowers that are in a vase on the table that aren't even in dirt anymore. And they seem to last quite a while. I don't know if that makes a difference or not, but I don't know if they have a soul necessarily, but I believe they are a live entity, a live being.
There's a name for the soul of plants. It's called the deva of the plants. Have you guys heard that term?
Mm-mm.
EVA. Yeah, like there's this idea. There's this woman. She did the Finhorn Gardens, where she would do her gardening all based on the souls of the plants. Like she would grow a summer garden in the winter because she would talk to the souls of the plants, and they would grow out of season and stuff like that. But yeah, like, so the idea that plants do, I mean, in some ways that plants do have a soul, but they have like a collective soul. Like all ferns have this similar deva. So the ferns connect under that root surface under the ground through their collective soul. And if one of them is going to sprout up, it like sprouts up. But okay, but you know what's trippy is volunteers in the garden. You guys know about a volunteer?
Mm-mm.
That's like when you got a seed sitting there and all of a sudden it just starts growing and you didn't plant it. It's called a volunteer.
Mhm.
Dude, some
Okay.
babies are like that. Like some humans volunteer themselves. That's like an unplanned, kind of situation. But the thing is like basically like you're onto something with the sun, Jenna, because throughout this you see that the sun pulls at plants to grow, and that's the teleological function of the sun whirling around. So one time I was on this plane and there was this baby in front of me, and its hand was like sitting there by the sun, and I could like see its aura like stretching into the sun, and then I was like, its fingers are about to grow. Like I could see the baby growing towards the sun. You know what I mean? And so, and what you get when you read this book is that the human is a plant, but we have this like self-moving thing and like there's all this stuff, but it's like I solve a lot of astrological problems by comparing the human to a plant. Be like, if the plant wasn't growing in this fashion, blah 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 blah. It's one of the ways they depersonalize things philosophically to then solve equations that humans are doing and things like that. But one of the basic ideas is that plants in soul and humans in soul, and there are similarities and there are differences.
Hmm.
Okay, so it says now a creature's mental visions emerge from one location, while the soul is pulled down to receive its urges through a different location. So, what do you guys think of a creature's mental visions? Like, where do our visions come from? I know these are hard existential philosophy questions, you guys. I know this is hard. So, what
I
do you
think
think
they
of?
come from the
Go ahead.
collective conscious. They're in the ether. All thoughts are out there. I've heard recently people talk about what you're thinking is not in your brain. It's not in your physical head. It's outside of that. So there's nothing new under the sun, as they say. But some people can attune to those things and pick up on those things easier than others. I think it's all out there in the collective conscious.
Like claircognizance.
Yeah, and some people are more open than others to receive those things. You know, you hear some of the the smartest people, Einstein or whatever, say things like, I had a problem, I had this issue, I didn't know what to do with it. And I'm taking a shower one day and suddenly it pops into my head, or I woke up from a dream and I had the answer. Well, where did that come from?
Showers, for sure. I do that too. I'm like, let me take a shower on this. Oh, epiphany.
Well, according to this book, as you'll see, they say that the visions are literally part of the seed in a human like plant. Like they would say, your seed is planted at birth, and then you grow, and the visions are part of what is implanted in your seed. So it's like, if Kimber's supposed to be an astrologer, they would say that she would see visions of herself as an astrologer. And like yesterday, Kimber, you were talking about how you'll see visions of yourself reading someone's chart. And I was thinking about that. I was just like, oh my God, like she's seeing her plant is trying to grow towards reading that chart. According to this book, is what they would say,
Yeah. I think too, I wonder if like I'm thinking about the growing thing too, and just how sometimes if like a plant, we have to repot it and it gets put in a bigger pot, or else you can't keep growing. And it makes me think about like, I've struggled with infertility personally, and I would say that it wasn't till I went through that I realized how much I wanted a baby, but also how much it wasn't really about a baby, it's about a family. And it was like stuff from my childhood of like just being born into a family where didn't feel accepted. And then also that whole fertility journey is what brought me to start practicing astrology professionally and like wanting to reflect on myself and like what does it mean to be a fourth house Aquarius person. And so I think that it's almost like I had this vision and that was like that can still be a part of the journey, or not. But just like, I don't know. I agree with what Jenna was saying earlier, but it made me, when you were talking about grow inside versus the senses and urges, it's like, can I grow if there's no space in this pot anymore?
Well, I love that no one's ever brought up the repotting concept in terms of like the soul growing, but I think that makes sense. Like if we're trying to grow, but we're stuck in whatever relationship or situation, like if we're in this a small pod or
Mm.
something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I was with the wrong people for sure. I don't know. I haven't found them yet, but I do think later I was like, I was doing what I needed to do and nothing was wrong, but these people were not aligned with my path. I do wonder though, too, with that soul thing of just what if you're put in a really big pot before you're ready? Like you can't just go from like your small nursery pot to like a giant one, right?
mhm,
And I
mhm.
wonder how much that plays in with like the ensoulment thing.
It's interesting to think about a small, like a tiny plant that's up potted way too fast, because what happens is the plant itself, when you water it, it can't take all the water in around it. So it ends up like rotting. And like, yeah, wow.
Well, you guys are making me think of Ptolemy's Four Influences on a Growing Creature, and he was a teleologist. Actually, all the ancient astrologers were. They had all read these books, kind of thing. And he was talking about there's four influences on a growing creature. So it's like the seed, genetics, culture, climate, and the chart. So maybe like the pot is kind of part of that climate or that you're growing in. It's like if the climate's too restrictive or the pot is too restrictive, that suffocates you. That would be like your parents if they're suffocating you or something like that. But like if you want the right amount of root, and Kimber, I'm super sorry if I triggered anything in you. I wanted to talk about that concept.
You did not trigger me. I don't want to, I don't want, I just want us to be sensitive to people who have gone through infertility before we say that they killed someone in a past life or that this is like a karmic
Yeah,
experience. Like
I'm
a karmic
sorry about
experience.
that. I didn't.
But yeah, but I know, I didn't feel like that. I was just like, I'm just thinking through the audience too.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you're trying philosophy, I think we're dealing with life and death issues. So we're
Yeah.
dealing with existence. You know what I mean? And so it is tenuous in some ways, and I know we're all trying here.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay.
I had to dissociate for a second and I am back. It's like I'm present now. So thank you for letting me do that on air.
Your soul left your body.
It really did. I was like, oh, I haven't had this happen in a while. I was like,
Oh. Well, so it's interesting though. There's I remember learning when I was at Kepler that there's like these spheres they thought that the soul came down through to gain all its senses. Have you guys heard of that?
Mm-mm.
So it's like they're saying that you got your visions from somewhere, and then you get your sensory urges as you as you step down into physical form. And so I just want us to like really hearken according to the teleological theory, a soul comes in with this genetic vessel, which is this like human baby body, but it also comes in with a bunch of visions set to unveil themselves, and also these sensory urges, and those are part of what the soul inhabits. Like Linda's saying that Einstein got his vision from the collective conscious, and these guys would say that was planted in his seed of life, and he was supposed to grow that at some point.
I can agree with that and believe that. I had a somatic regression experience to being in the womb and feeling my birth mother's feelings and taking those on as like my duty to deal with, if that makes sense. Like the guilt around existing while in the womb, because like I was a what was it called?
A volunteer.
Yeah, I was a volunteer in her garden. So, thinking back to that experience and trying to make sense of it, it's like, okay, guilt is something that's very much a part of my story, and moving through that in this lifetime and learning how to release it, it's like, yeah, that was 100% a big thing that I had to come into in the womb.
Fascinating. Okay, let's keep moving. It says another interesting discussion is the ability to manage the physical vessel. So a big thing they talk about is like the soul has to actually handle its own vessel. So like, what does this look like?
The Pisces Virgo axis.
what do you mean by manage the physical vessel though?
Well, like feed itself, bathe itself, make sure it doesn't die. I don't know. There's a lot of things that we do to stay ensouled. I mean,
Oh, but like if you're a baby, you can't do that for yourself.
You can send
Right.
cues, maybe? Because when you're a baby, you're also not recognizing that you're separate from mother. Like a lot
Um,
of your regulation comes from coming back into your mother's arms, your mother's aura, all of it, because you don't, like the fourth trimester theory, like you're not seeing yourself as even separate at that point.
yeah. Yeah, I was gonna say something and I lost it.
Are you talking about a baby as in already born or as within the mother's
or
womb?
or in utero, like because I think what Jenna's saying is that it's so dependent on that individual that you're dependent on.
Oh, I know what I was
Right.
gonna say. They talk about this. They say a plant can die at the hands of its farmer. So I feel like when your mom is when you're a baby, like your mom is your farmer, and they can be like not watering you.
But okay, in all serious, there's this study about, like, this is a student study, but they did it for like kids from age 5 to 12, and they were tracking how many hugs do you need to survive versus thrive, and every day, and you need 12 to thrive and 8 to just survive, like to be bare minimum. And so that's why it was really important. Like I would hug my students, and because you just don't know how many hugs are they getting at home. But
Mhm.
it was something I was like, 8 touches, I don't know, I'm just like, there's so many things, and I think about like attachment styles and things like that. But what if your parent is not tuned into your physical vessel until you're independent to take care of it? Are you kind of set up for a struggle to stay ensouled? Can your soul leave while you're still physically alive?
Yeah, we saw you do it a second ago.
Right, but it came back, so it wasn't permanent. I'm talking about like permanent.
I have a thought on that, and I hope it doesn't trigger anybody. But when Jason was born, it was 1971 or 75, and I was so afraid that he might decide. The stuff I was reading was making me think that if he decided that this was not the place he wants to learn his lessons, if I mean, to me, was not right for him as a soul, that he could let go. And that was, they explained a lot of infant deaths. They mysteriously die in the crib deaths and things like that. As a soul, just making a decision that this is going to be a waste of my time. Let's move on. And so, to answer your question, I think they can make that choice.
Mm.
Oh my god, that's trivia. I'm getting goosebumps. Well, it makes me think of like in orphanages. Okay. Let's compare it to a plant in a garden, right? If you plant a plant in a garden and you don't water it, you don't feed it, you don't fertilize it, it can't get to the sun, it will perish, right? It's the same with a kid in an
Mhm.
orphanage. If it's not getting held, if it's not getting, I guess Kimber's kind of making the statement that being held is one of the ways that the soul grows. Is
Mhm.
humans growing it through encouragement and some
Yeah, or how we talk to our plants affects them too. I guess like too, but this is kind of trippy. Maybe if choosing the people I'm going to insult to, and I know where they're at in their readiness to take care, potentially, depending on how much do I know, is that me choosing? Like, am I showing resistance to wanting to insult, or is it more of a challenge situation? Like, isn't picking a person also connected to me wanting to take care of my physical vessel? If I'm the one choosing.
And maybe part of that path that you were to walk in order to evolve does involve that lack of nurture, that lack of holding.
Right.
That
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard for me. I see these converging with evolutionary, but then I also see there being a bit of a break.
Mhm, mhm.
Well, I think you're honest on that, Kimmer, because this was astrology. Like some of us have charts where we come down to struggle, right? Like if you had Saturn in the first house conjunct the moon, maybe you would come into an unholding mother or something, like a mother that's not holding you, and either you make it through that or you perish. I mean, like some babies didn't make it, and like Linda's saying. So I think you're kind of merging your astrology brain with this brain of like, are there some charts that are meant to struggle with the caregiver and then other ones that are not? And like, how does that, is that planned or is that not planned?
Yeah. I need to get out of the plant metaphor because that's just, I'm like deep diving right now.
Oh, you will not. If you
Because
become
of
a
the
paleologist.
rainforest, you know, like the short trees, they had to fight for sunlight. And so you have, so maybe it's like you choose this because you're ready, or I don't know, you need a more challenging experience in souling. I don't know.
And where does that put bonsai trees?
Bonsai tree? Well,
Like
that's
that foot binding?
foot binding your bonsai tree. That is so cute. No, I've actually thought about bonsai trees because it's like a hyper curated ensoulment experience where the parents like all like super controlling and like yeah, that's actually really smart. Yeah, okay, so it says a creature must gather resources and food, keep the body clean, etc. Okay, I have a comment about this. Okay, so I drink 10 coffees a day. I like, okay. And people are like, why do you do that? I'm like, because I read these ancient books. And what they say is that every vessel needs to feed itself differently, like according to the chart, right? So basically, I'm like, my chart loves coffee. And it's like, I have a lot of black in my chart. Like, my aura needs the color black. Like, I'm like, like even my drink right now is like the black color. Like what the point is like I think I do this extreme stuff because of reading this philosophy of like each of us has a different diet according to our chart. And to say you should work in this food pyramid is not really going with the teleological idea that we have different senses and urges, right? Like maybe I'm sensing and urging to drink coffee because my soul needs that much black or something. Like I don't really know.
To stay productive. Yeah. Like my husband drinks a lot of caffeine and additionally takes caffeine pills and other optimizing supplements. And if someone else did that, they might be over the edge and no longer as productive because they're managing a racing heart and anxiety, whereas he wouldn't even start his day without that.
So
I think that kind of goes back to the pot being, or the plant being put in a bigger pot and growing and expanding. Because I used to drink coffee like all day long, right into the evening, and I could still go to sleep. Now I have 1 cup a day. I don't want all that, and I don't need a lot of the things that I needed when I was in a smaller pot, if you will.
Yeah.
Do you notice that seasonally too? Like, do you drink more coffee during certain seasons?
no.
No.
Nope.
But I have Scorpio in the 6th house of daily habits, and I think I am like wired to be like really intense about my daily habits. It's kind of my personality. You know what I mean? It's like the same with my donut, you know? Okay, but check this out. It says by growing in size, a being expresses the ability to manage its own house. They call this dioicasis. So dioicasis is to keep house, manager, administer, or govern. So it's like they say that as we grow bigger, we govern our own house. So I mean, maybe this is the baby. Someone else is taking care of you, and then as you grow bigger, you do more and more governing of your own vessel. What do you guys think of that?
Sure. Absolutely. When you start walking, you're no longer being carried by your parents. I mean, you start developing, you start talking. All those things are part of coming onto your own and growing.
Yeah, I agree.
I just had this conversation with my daughter because she's 18 and she's kind of like fighting with her dad a little bit. And he's like, well, my psychiatrist told me you were messing the nest. This is what 18-year-olds do. They just mess up things at home so they're not sad to leave. And I was like, well, my teleological take on that is when you're 18 years old, you should plant your plant into an environment where it can grow optimally. You don't choose where you're growing in the first 18 years of life, and now that you can drive yourself around in a car, you can leave your dad's house at any given time. Like I was just like basically saying that when you're 18, you should govern your own climate that you're growing in. Like if my climate needs 10 coffees, I'm 48 and I can do that. If I was 15, my parents would there's no way they would let me do that, right? But like there's this idea that as you get older, you are actually to govern your own plant of life so that it can grow optimally according to what it needs, according to your senses, basically.
There you go, Jenna.
It's your nodal return as well. So the idea of in evolutionary, we say like the spirit is setting it up again. So it's almost like you just did an entire nodal cycle with guidance or with the oversight of your parents, and now it's set up again and you get to go do it independently, express your autonomy in the nodal cycle.
Yeah. What I was gonna say is also like the whole messing up the nest thing of just that we're surrounded by other people who are ensouled, and so when we like uproot, what if our roots are tied to theirs a little? Like it hurts them. Like we're impacting those other plants around us and our soul's climate as well by choosing to be removed or like to go where we. So it makes sense why it's like it's a delicate process of what if me going where my soul's ready to go impacts this other soul journey. Like I remember when I like went to college, my younger sister, I had no idea, was deeply impacted by that. And like I had no idea. I thought we were close, but I was just like, this is normal. But you know, she was left alone, and it was just she was felt. I was like, oh, I had no idea how much like this was the right thing for me, but how would that affect her?
Makes me wonder if plants, when you take a plant away from other plants, if it hurts, if those plants grieve.
Yeah, now I want to look it up. Like,
Yeah, right. Like, you know, like you'll get those 6 starts in a little thing and then you separate them out and we're just like doing it willy nilly. But what if they're crying?
Oh,
It
wow.
stresses me out as an indoor cannabis grower that my plants can't talk to each other. I already have had this existential crisis in my grow room.
When you separate them into different pots.
Yeah, and I'm like, they're roots, they can't talk, and we're feeding them micronutrients, and like they don't have anyone to talk to about it. Like it's a lot. And then we just kill them, we just harvest them, and then they like hang dead next to each other. Like that's morbid as hell.
Dude, after reading
Yeah.
I should read Ensoulment to my plants.
There you go. All right, another concept is integral to the discussion. Plants spawn from similar plants. Conversely, a living creature animates inside an embryo for a unique and preordained purpose. Each new creature enlivens for a life pursuit, a role to be manifested among the many. So, I mean, you could say that a plant spawn. Okay, a plant spawned from similar plants. Do humans spawn from similar humans?
Genetically. Yes.
Absolutely. Like if
Yeah.
you have a chart it's got blue tones in it, and it can only, let's say somebody genetically spawns from brown-eyed people, that it can only have brown eyes. You can't get a blue eye, even if the chart has blue in it. You can't get a blue eye in a brown-eyed plant. Do you know what I'm saying? But you can see blue hues in the brown eye. Like you can see a person with brown eyes who looks really good in the color blue because their aura is still blue. But like you do, when looking at people from a teleological perspective, we absolutely look at their parent plant. But it's saying that humans, though, animate for a unique and preordained purpose, like for a life pursuit. So, do you guys think that humans animate for a life purpose?
Yes, but I
Yes.
don't think of purpose the same way I think other like society defines purpose. I don't think it needs to be like a physical mark or achievement as defined by like, you know, I think sometimes maybe the purpose is to live or to experience things.
Yeah, like we're here on some level through one lens to just have a human experience. And if that human experience is becoming a billionaire, or that human experience is, you know, being a vagabond that is kind of on the fringe of society, like one experience is not even inherently spiritually better than the other one. It's like you can't really compare them. They're both just having an experience.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what's Father J.S. say about people having a life path?
Mm-hmm.
I think it kind of goes to the ACIM concept. What other people's life path is none of our business. Everybody has their own path to follow, for whatever reason. We're here to experience, have a human experience, but we do have a reason for it. We don't necessarily know the reason. We just develop as we develop. And if we miss the mark, something happens, and we move on, and we've missed that mark, and we have to come back, and so be it. But yeah, I just read the latest chapter that I'm uploading. Talks about we're not here. It's not an accident. We didn't just happen by accident. There is a purpose and a reason for each one of us, and it's really none of our business to know or to try to figure out somebody else's. We just accept them as they are.
That is our business. We're astrologers. We're like telling people their life path. No, I mean, I love that comment that it's kind of like between a person and the creator. Like, why are you here? But I also want to say that as astrologers, we look a lot into life purpose, and like Christians do this all the time. It's like, what is your calling? What are you being called to do? Right? But I think the teleologists would look at it like they're like, it, on each planetary transit, obtain a new heartfelt calling, grasp out to what you're called to, or grow forward and bear fruit. Like it was all a path of like growing into yourself and your life path and pursuit. Like this was all about that. We're just seeing the beginnings of the book where she's like, yo, you have a purpose. Like, which, and I think that's, the only thing I have take issue with him is like, are you assuming plants don't have a purpose? Like, just because they spawn from a parent plant doesn't mean they don't have a purpose. I mean, maybe they
Well, they do have
do.
a purpose. Yeah, yeah, exactly. They grow, they bear fruit, or they bear flowers, or they feed the bees, or whatever. They have a purpose as well. And and going back real quick to your astrologer comments, you might tell somebody what their sign is telling them about them or whatever, but that doesn't mean you're going to follow that or believe that or do anything with that. You're just giving them the guidance to this is what I say, I believe this is what the stars are telling you, and they'll do with it what they will.
What if Stephen Forrest says that fourth house sons like are hesitant to reincarnate, and it makes me think about where your son's at, and it's like I feel that way. That resonates for me, but it's like I think my purpose is to want to grow again or want to live again, find a way to grow. But that feels very fifth house. And it's like, when you look at what house your son's in, does it feel like your purpose is connected to the next house over?
Well, you are a fifth house sun in whole sign.
Well, in whole sign, but I feel too that the whole Aquarius and Capricorn connected feels very like fourth and fifth house just feel very important in my life in general. But wanted to know if you feel like that with your whole sign sun, does it connect? Does your feeling of purpose connect to the house next to your sun? Like that's what you're growing towards, or no?
You can make that case if you look at the progression cycle, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I see the whole chart as my path and purpose. I take it one transit at a time and grow each piece of the puzzle, like that. But after having read this book, like I cannot not think about life purpose. I mean, like if I don't know how much you guys of this book you guys want to read, but it will change you reading this book. I mean, I don't know. I can't look at a person without just being like life purpose is everywhere in teleology. It is the philosophy of looking at things from a purpose perspective. Like for example, like you could take a teleological look at this incense. You could be like, what's the teleological purpose of this incense?
Andy, before we meet again, can you please watch the movie Soul, like the animated movie?
Sure.
Because I feel like what you just said resonates, and I just want to hear your point of view on the movie or not.
But what's the point of this incense? What's the life path of it? What's its purpose?
To
create smoke, to smell good, to burn,
to sacrifice,
to inspire.
Right. And it's like, could you knit a scarf with this incense?
No.
Right. It's like in teleology, it's like everything has a purpose. And it's like it doesn't have to be like we know its purpose or not, but it's the look at something with purpose in mind. Mm-hmm. Right? It's like my scissors, what is the purpose of these scissors? Well, it could be to cut paper, that's probably the purpose, or cut something. but I can also like stab something with these scissors. Like you can do things with something that isn't necessarily its purpose. I mean, there's just all this philosophy around purpose, and that's what astrologers were. Is they were teleologists looking at people's purpose. Like you can say, Kimber, what's the purpose of your son in the fourth or the fifth or whatever,
Yeah.
and it would be our job to analyze that philosophically. Maybe we don't know technically, we don't get it right. Like Dragon Rose has a good point. Like we might not get it right, but the fact that we're looking at a person from that lens, that is teleology.
I think there can be purposes that are more than like behavioral too, though. Like we could say the scissors has a purpose of cutting or stabbing or protection, or it could have a purpose of like a tool for Andy to manifest joy through crafting. So it's a tool, its purpose is bringing joy through stabbing or crafting.
Or precision. Yeah. Precisely stabbing.
And right? You shouldn't be wrong because in existential philosophy, it's not really it's not really right or wrong. Like if I said the purpose of these is to start my car, that would be wrong, though.
Well, you could jam it in and try.
No, I like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you wouldn't be successful, Jenna. And so Andy, I like what Andy said. Like there's a certain area that are things that you can do. Like people can use incense for different things, but that's still contained to this specific type of task still. So you know what I mean? Like you can't use incense sticks to crochet no matter how much you try. I mean, I guess someone could figure it out, but why?
No, it's like that with charts. It's like the charts can do several things, but there's certain things like my asthmatic chart cannot run the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
It can't. I will die of asthma, but it can sit there and crochet. Like perhaps I have asthma, so I sit there and crochet and don't run in the Olympics. Like I don't know, but I think from a teleological perspective, there are things that we absolutely cannot do with our charts,
and we need to be open to that rejection of that path, because rejection is just redirection. So if your incense are feeling rejected by their crochet goal, then it's like, don't just keep trying this thing that isn't working. Like you're taking this long path towards your purpose that is more painful than necessary. Light yourself on fire. See what that does.
Yeah, well, like it's like according to modern manifestation theory, it's like they say, oh, if you want anything hard enough, you can have it. No, teleology would say everybody can be excellent at something that they are made for. Mm-hmm. That's teleology.
Well, but like we say to kids, you can be anything you want to be. And I do think too, I think about that when I'm doing fertility astrology. It's like I have to look at the root prediction. And there's also like some people cannot have children without assistance, or even with assistance cannot. And I think it's being open to like that you can have children or something in your life and that still be a part of your purpose. But I think when we get zoomed into it needs to be this way or this process is when sometimes we miss out on the purpose our soul came here to come for. It's like, whereas it didn't happen in this, like I have this very narrow view of what my purpose is.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Father Jay's attitude on that is you will get everything you want if God thinks that's what's best for you. So there's a caveat there.
Yeah.
Oh my God, we got through a page and a half.
How many are there?
Is this a weekly thing you're going to do now?
There are 9. Let's see. There's 86 pages. I don't know. We would have to schedule a time that people can do it. Are you guys interested in doing more of the book? Not to put you on the spot.
I am. I would love to do like let's read this much before we meet, and so then we can just talk about whatever we read.
Mm-hmm.
And then but I'm very interested in the book. I feel like I didn't come prepared, and I need to read some.
Okay.
I'm totally fine if this becomes weekly. Andy, when we originally set it up, we had 3 dates that had like a lot of space in between them. But if you guys want to meet weekly, I'll come when I can.
I think we're pretty booked. We're pretty full as far as doing something weekly, but maybe we could meet on this once a month or we already have something else booked, so I'll email Kimber and Dragon Rose on the next dates. But yeah, I think just Well, let's find maybe once a month we can convene on Ensoulment or something like that. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you still have copies of the book, Andy? So, or where would I get a copy?
It's on Amazon. Ensoulment.
The next one we had scheduled is May 8th.
At what time? 2:30.
Yep, same time.
Yeah, it's on my. Okay.
Okay, cool. All right, you guys, this is a great discussion.
Thank you.
All right, you just go ahead and see everything as a plant. Go ahead, see every person in your life as a plant.
I know. I'm like, just
before we leave, I do want to again apologize if I triggered anyone or made anyone uncomfortable. That was never my intention.
Well, I'm sorry I brought up the topic, but I really wanted us to look at that concept. It was like I didn't want to omit the concept because it might have been personal, but like I don't know. It was
No, I don't. I think I just wish I was able to speak on it. That's it. It was. I don't think not bringing up the topic. It was just bringing up the topic made sense for what you were asking. I was like, dang, I didn't even get to say something.
Okay, you did speak on it a little bit later, so that's cool.
Yes. So I'm again, everything is fine, everyone. But thank you.
Is everyone in their body? Keep your soul.
I agree. It's difficult.
What?
It's difficult to talk on a topic when you don't know anything about it, or talk about a book that you've never read. So you feel like you're put on the spot when you're said, "Well, what do you think about this?" I don't know. Yeah. I wasn't thinking about it till you mentioned it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. Feel free to get the book, and we can. I made an Ensoulment Discord channel, so we can talk about where we're at in the reading in there, and also the next time that we'll meet.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Bye.
Have a good day. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.